This conference will now be recorded.
All right, welcome to the Alpena City Council meeting of January 17th, 2023. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Here.
Councilmember Nowak.
Here.
Councilmember Walczak.
Here.
And Mayor Walagora.
Here. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
And to the
republic which stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
So moved. Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilmember Nowak.
Yes.
Councilmember Walczak.
Yes.
And Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Any proposed modifications?
Thanks, sir.
Okay, approval of the minutes for regular and closed sessions of January 3rd, 2023 and the special session of January 12th, 2023. Any issues, changes?
Nope.
Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address your concerns. This is the only time during tonight's meeting that you're allowed to address council. If you'd like to do so, please come to the podium and state your name and address to our clerk for her records. Anyone in the live audience first? And no guests here. Charlie, anybody on the? Thank you. All right, tonight's consent agenda is A, bills to be allowed in the amount of $616,680.37. B is council appointment of Lucille Bray, Lorenzo Johns, and Lisa Kruse to the Alpena, to the Wildlife Sanctuary Board for a 3-year term expiring on February 1st, 2026. B is the approval of resolution number 2023-1, which allows a resident taxpayer to file his or her protest before the board of review by letter.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Forward.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilmember Nowak.
Yes.
Councilmember Walczak.
Yes.
Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Thank you. Next, we have presentations. The first is retirement recognition of John Nye, DPW technician, and City Manager Rachel Smolinski is here for that.
John, can I get you to come up here if you don't mind?
Oh, why don't you just stand right next to me?
Right. Right where you like to be.
All right. So hired in April of 2001, John Nye has been a pillar at the Department of Public Works for nearly 22 years. We will miss John's dedication, his attention to detail, and his friendly disposition, no matter the situation. Over the last several years, John's beach cleaning and grooming efforts have been somewhat famous and were appreciated by many beachgoers. John took great pride and has received much praise for his work at the beaches, which will serve as one of our crown jewels in Alpena. So thank you for that, John. John always projected a positive attitude of our DPW, and he would take the time to talk with citizens or simply smile and wave as he worked. John would check every bulb on the Culligan Plaza Christmas tree, and we know that at the last minute, they would often decide not to work. So he was in that bucket truck, high in the air, making the last minute fixes so the tree would light up when the mayor flipped the switch. One word that many people use to describe John is dependable. He demonstrated that year after year, whenever he called out for an emergency utility dig or for a snow event, he never said no. Thank you, John, for your dedication over the last 22 years, for your hard work and your dependability. Congratulations. You'll be greatly missed. Come on up here. Ask you to present this to John, please.
Absolutely. Come on up here. All right, next up is the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022, and representative from Straley Lamp.
Good evening. I'm Chelsea McConnell. It's a pleasure to be here to present the fiscal year 2022 report. So GASB statement number 98 changed the name of the report this year to the Annual Financial Comprehensive Report. The city has been awarded the Certificate of Achievement of Excellence for 28 consecutive years now, beginning with June 30th, 1994 through 2021. And Anna and Leland worked very hard to get this prestigious award. There is a lot of work that goes into it. In fact, I was looking back just to see how the report has grown because standards are getting so complicated. And from 2012 to 2022, in the last 10 years, the report has grown 30 pages. So it just shows how complicated accounting is starting to get. So a little bit about the report design. First, you have the introductory section followed by the independent auditor's report. And the independent auditor's report is really the only thing in all these 216 pages that is Straley, Lamp, and Kraenzlein. The rest of it is the city's. Followed by management's discussion and analysis. And then you have your basic financial statements. That consists of your government-wide statements, your fund financial statements, and your note disclosures. Then you have required supplemental information. This information isn't considered part of the basic financial statements. However, the Governmental Accounting Standard Board deems it required. And that's going to consist of your budgetary comparison schedules and your pension and OPEB schedules. Next, you have your supplemental information, which contains non-major governmental fund combining statements and individual fund statements. And last is the statistical section. So first, I'm actually going to just go over a couple things that aren't bound within the report, 2 letters that are required communications between the auditors and the board. The first one is titled Communication with Those Charged with Governance at the Conclusion of the Audit. So I'm just going to go over a couple key points in this letter. So management is responsible for the selection and appropriate accounting policies. In addition, we did implement GASB statement number 87 leases during 2022. All significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. In addition, oftentimes to comply with generally accepted accounting principles, we have to make estimates within the financial statements, and some of those estimates are considered sensitive estimates. Probably 2 of the most sensitive estimates within these financial statements would be the pension and OPEB liabilities and the related deferred inflows of resources and outflows of resources. Those numbers are pretty significant to the financial statements, and they are based on actuarial valuations and many different assumptions such as mortality rate, cost of living adjustments, inflation, how wages are going to increase over time. In addition, the estimate for the amount that will be received for the sewer and water litigation that's ongoing with the Township of Alpena. And then going along with that, there's some sensitive disclosures, which are basically what I just talked about, the pension and OPEB disclosures in note 15 and 16, and also the disclosure of the contingencies and claims in note 19. I am pleased to report we encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management and performing our audit. In addition, any audit adjustments that were identified during the audit were reviewed and approved by management and were posted and are reflected within the numbers in this report. I'm also pleased to report that we had no disagreements during the course of our audit with management. Now, the next letter I'm going to go over is the report on internal controls. So government auditing standards require this communication between us and the board. Internal controls over financial reporting are considered when we're designing and planning our audit. However, it is important to point out that we do not assess internal controls to opine on them. Therefore, we do not issue an opinion on the system of internal controls. However, I am pleased to say we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in our consideration of internal controls. However, that doesn't mean there are none that exist. It just means we didn't identify any. Next, I'm going to go over the independent auditor's report. So if you took a look at this report and looked at last year's report, you would see that it changed pretty significantly. So Statement of Auditing Standard number 134, SAS 134, was implemented this year. And one of the things that new standard did was overhaul the opinion in an effort for transparency. So it moved it around a little bit, and it also added a lot of additional language under auditors' responsibilities. I think a lot of times there's misconceptions on what are auditors' responsibilities and management's responsibilities and what do auditors do during an audit. So this was really made to try to make that a little bit more transparent. With that being said, I am pleased to say that you were issued an unmodified opinion, which means we do believe the financial statements to be presented fairly in all material respects. Materiality is a concept that's utilized by auditors. And then, as I mentioned previously, when we were going over that letter, we also make various risks and internal control assessments to plan and perform our audit. During our audit process, we do gather audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide our basis of opinion. One other thing you'll notice about the opinion this year is there is an emphasis of matter paragraph. So that paragraph is included in the auditor's report to refer to a matter presented or disclosed within the financial statements that in the auditor's judgment is considered importance to the readers of the financial statements. And that's basically just disclosing that we implemented GASB statement number 87 leases, but our opinion was not modified with respect to that matter. The next slide is a summarized comparative government-wide statement of financial position for governmental activities. And I'm just going to go over a couple of significant changes between last fiscal year and this fiscal year. So the main reason for the increase in current and other assets is cash and investments increased about $1.6 million combined. The decrease in capital assets during the current year was just that depreciation exceeded the capital asset additions. The increase in deferred outflows of resources and non-current liabilities, and then the decrease in deferred inflows of resources were all due to the pension resulting from the GASB 6768 calculation that's performed by the actuary. The increase in current liabilities was a result of unearned revenue, which was the ARPA funds that weren't utilized at year end. And overall, there is just a slight decrease in net position from the current year on those government-wide statements. And the next slide shows a summary of that. So both revenues and expenses increased over the prior fiscal year. The main reason for the increase in revenue was due to an increase in charges for services and operating grants and contributions. The operating grants and contributions primarily increased due to state grants received for streets. And the main reasons for the increases in expenses were general government increased, and that was really due to the GASB 68 pension adjustment that was posted, and then public works, which was an increase in major street spending, which correlated with that increase in revenue. And also the marina increased, and that was just because this was the first full year the city had taken on those operations. So next I'm going to go over the general fund summary. So overall, the general fund had a healthy fiscal year, ending the year with an increase in fund balance of about $490,000. It ended the year at about $4.2 million of fund balance. Oh, I'm sorry, 4.4 million. 4.2 million of that was the unassigned portion of fund balance. And then I just have a couple key ratios to look at to measure the general fund's health. So the first one is the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures and other financing uses. It increased slightly from last year by about 2.5% to 41%. And also the number of days of expenditures in unassigned fund balance, which increased about 10 days from last year to 150 days. So the Government Finance Officers Association recommends no less than 60 days for that financial measure. So the city surpassed that. So the next slide kind of goes over GASB statement number 87 a little bit. As I previously mentioned, GASB 87 was implemented this year. There was a lease that the city is a leaseor for that had to be implemented for this standard, and that's reflected in both the governmental fund financial statements and the government-wide financial statements. So a lease receivable was recognized for the present value of the lease payments expected to be received over this lease term. And the lease receivable will be amortized over the lease term. In addition, there was a correlating deferred inflow of resources recognized for the unavailable revenue pertaining to that lease, and revenue will be recognized over the term of the lease as well. And that was recorded in the general fund and the DPW construction fund. There were no leases that the city had entered into that they were the leasee for that they had to implement 87 for at June 30th, 2022. But I believe next fiscal year end there will be, I believe there was some vehicles that are being leased that those will probably fall under this standard. Business type activities, the enterprise funds, which are the sewer and water funds. So the sewer fund overall had an increase in net position of about $472,000. There was a decrease in operating revenue of about $227,000, which was just caused from a decrease of usage. Operating expenses remained relatively consistent, but they had a small decrease as well at $67,000. The water fund increased net position about $1.5 million. Operating revenues also decreased about $150,000 just due to a decrease in income from other services. Operating expenses in the water fund decreased about $350,000 from 2021. And that was mainly due to, in 2021, there were some large repairs and maintenance expenses for the water intake cleaning, and those didn't exist in the current fiscal year. So this next slide just goes over some more upcoming reporting changes that are coming down the line from GASB. The only one I really want to point out is GASB statement number 96, subscription-based information technology arrangements that will need to be implemented for June 30th, 2023 year end. It hasn't really been evaluated whether that will affect the city right now. If it doesn't right now, I think probably sometime in the future it will. And that really just has to do with cloud computing software. A lot of places are moving towards that. And even if you don't have it now, probably some point you will. That standard, though, is very similar to GASB 87 that was implemented this year. However, GASB 87 that deals with tangible objects, GASB 96 obviously is an intangible asset that would be implemented for. So I think those are the key areas that I wanted to go over. So I'll just open it up to if anyone has any questions on anything.
Job at all, but I
Well, if you ever do in the future, feel free to reach out.
sure. Thank you, Chelsea.
Phenomenal at her job.
Oh, thank you.
She leads this whole project and does an amazing job every year and always makes sure that we meet our deadlines. And she's just amazing.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Good to hear. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank you, you too. And if someone will move to receive and file that.
I move we receive and file.
Support.
Go ahead, Mike.
We all say it'd be okay.
Councilmember Nowak,
Yes.
Councilmember Walchuk,
Yes.
Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. Next up is the Target Alpena semi-annual report, and Mike Mahler, Economic Development Director, is here.
So we're going to change it up this year. Like Chelsea just had, she had their papers with her. I'm not doing that. I'm bringing my iPad up here, not my phone. I'm not ready to go to the phone yet. That's a little too small. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity here. It's twice a year I get to come before you and kind of talk a little bit about what's going on. I know you've read my report, at least I'll assume you've read my report. So I'm not going to get into all the weeds within it. I'll just maybe touch on a few high points if that's okay. At the end, I'll open up for questions if there's anything you want to ask me. I know some of this is old news because it's been hashed around a few times and covered in the media, but I will at least mention that we did receive a grant, the MEDC grant, to support the Habitat project out on Chisholm Street. Big undertaking, very competitive to ask for $5 million and get it, but we did. And so that's obviously a great project for our community. But even in spite of the fact that we have a grant like that in place, there's still a lot of other elements we have to jump through in order to make the project come to fruition. So I met with the developers today, just working through some of those items right now. So I just want you to know, though, that it is something that's in play right now. I know the DDA, a lot of things going on there. I know you're aware of all of them, so I won't bore you with any of it. except that we did promise to be working on a parking plan that City Council directed us to do. So we kind of set that aside on the DDA boundary expansion. It's been a big lift to this point. And so just with the amount of time that I was committing to that, along with some of our committee members, we decided to kind of let parking set a little bit to get through the DDA expansion process, which we're almost through now. So one way or the other. With respect to APC site, everybody's always interested in it. You know, we had a contract in place for 12 months, a purchase agreement to let a Fairfield hotel be developed on that site. And I'll be darned, but the headwinds that financially faced the developer this year with interest rates and material costs just suddenly made the project no longer viable. So I was disappointed after all the time and energy that went into that project to get us to that point. But one door closes, another one opens. I literally, in September, when the developer and I talked about the not extending the contract, it didn't make sense. Probably within 2 days, I had another developer reach out with another project in mind. And so the target board who owns that property entered into an option agreement. So we have a 6-month option agreement in place to allow the developer time to figure out how we might develop that site. Didn't want to go a year, didn't want to tie it up for that long. So we have a much shorter tether on this one. So in 6 months. But anyway, the project is primarily focused on housing. And obviously we all know how bad housing is needed here. So that's kind of the primary piece, but more to come on that in probably my next update. With respect to Alpena Mark, I spent a lot of time working with Jeff Konchak. He's got so many things going on, as I know as many of you are aware, in the community. And so I just know that I spend a lot of time just interacting with him to try to help facilitate wherever I may. With respect to the property that the city owns north of town, finally we had our first sale. I think 20 years it's been for sale, right? 20 years? Hallelujah. Sold 4 acres, and the first domino fell. My hope is that the next domino will fall hopefully this spring. As you know, you've got 4 purchase agreements on 3 different parcels over there for the Fish and Wildlife project. And so that contract, those bids were due last January 6th, 2022. And it's going to take the federal government a whole year to decide which of those 4 contracts is the best one. But they promise they'll have a decision this spring. And so hopefully we'll figure out which of those developers and which of those parcels is going to potentially house the next Fish and Wildlife. So I'm hopeful that we'll know something here this springtime and get something else built on that land back there. Of course, you know, you sold the 4 acres to the boathouse to put up some condos off of Hamilton Road. So I'm not exactly sure what the timing is. I know he wanted to start that this past fall, but he ran out of daylight. Hampton, I had nothing to do with that. That was all Mr. Skibby working out on M32. I learned, like everybody else, when I read it in the paper that we're getting a Hampton. The developer was not working with me since it was out of the city. So good work to Nathan for bringing that together. Glad to see that. I think they're going to start around the spring. I was at the planning commission meeting when it was approved, and 101, 102 rooms or something like that, right down M32, just 700 yards from the Home Depot light. Kind of over in that corridor too. As you all know, there's been all these, since I've been in this job 3+ years, all these has been something that's been in the works. It's not going to end up at the bus garage. I think that ship has sailed, but Aldi is still looking for an opportunity to place one in Alpena. And so I've been working with them on that piece. And so I'd like to at some point announce that there's an Aldi's coming to town here, but I'm not ready to make that statement yet. But I just share with you that it is still in play, still being evaluated at another site. We got steel being erected for marshals. Hallelujah. It's finally happening here. And then I have a little section here on CRTC. We're going to have, the reason I even have that in here, I know it's outside of the city, but my report says there's going to spend $78 million in 2023 at the air base, at the county, and the Department of Defense and Air National Guard. That 75 million or 78 million is really 75. They're not going to do the tower upgrades because they didn't get funded, but they're going to spend $75 million in our community next year. All of it's going to be spent next year, or this year, I should say, 2023. So I think that you're going to see restaurants staying full and busy around here and just more traffic and a lot of money. So glad to see that. Starbucks and urgent care look great. Cars always seem to be in those parking lots. I'm glad to see that they seem to be doing well, at least my windshield assessment. Housing, just, you know, obviously it's needed. There's a lot of things, you know, Rachel and Mary Catherine took the lead to establish a housing task force. I do serve on that. And I did order through the task force, we ordered a needs assessment. hired a consultant to come up and tell us what the area could support by way of new housing, how many units, what type of units, rental versus ownership versus, kind of covering the full spectrum, from higher end to workforce housing. So anyway, we ordered that report and we should have a draft of that in February. And so that'll be the basis for us to then be able to, for me to approach developers and say, here's an independent verification of the need that exists in our community. Now, my hope is that'll get some attention. Target does have a loan fund. I made 8 loans last year. Most of those were Alpena related businesses, new businesses that we funded. And then I guess I'll stop there. I think taking with the benefit of being able to look backwards, as the year started out, things looked kind of dicey economically. Inflation was really starting to take off. There were some headwinds. And so I look back now and say the year went, I think, exceedingly well. We lost one project, the Fairfield project, because of those headwinds. And like I said, someone else stepped right up right after the fact and said, I have an idea for that site. And so I think taking it all in, I think we should be pretty happy with the progress we made and what appears to be a pretty robust year for 2023. I mean, the developers are still calling. What I didn't have in my report, because it literally came up the same day I finished this and sent it to Rachel, was that we've been talking about somebody wanting more property in the city property north of town. Someone had an idea for a project out there. They've been to town twice. They met with me and Steve Schultz out there this past summer for the second time. He called me a couple days ago, and the scope of that project has potentially expanded. And now he wanted to find out what's going to cost him to get into contact with DTE to get gas back in there. So anyway, so there's a potential, again, this is a developer downstate who wants to come up here because they think this is a market ripe for activity. And of course, we'll continue to support those kinds of inquiries whenever they present themselves. So, okay, I promise now I'm done, unless you have questions for me. I know poor Kim's got to get to an exercise classes at 30. I told her I'd be brief.
Look at you. No, appreciate it, Mike, and certainly appreciate your availability. Had anybody have any questions in the meantime, and getting quick updates from you, and certainly don't apologize for including some of the township and more regional things, because we know that you do that and it affects us as well. So.
And Presque Isle, I didn't touch on them, but obviously I do the same thing for Presque Isle County. And so thank you for your support. Without your support, I wouldn't be here doing this, and I enjoy doing this. So appreciate your supporting what I do and the benefit it has for our community. So thank you.
Mike.
Mike.
I know, that's quite the lead there you gave me.
Councilmember Walchuk,
Yes.
Mayor Walagora.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Nowak.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next up is the Huron Humane Society semi-annual report.
Yep, and I am April Beal.
Thank you, April.
Hello. I am Vice President and Treasurer of Huron Humane Society. So I am following Mary Egan's lead. She usually does this. So I will see what I can do. I'm a numbers person. I don't do a lot of public speaking. So I'm going to be giving lots of numbers to you, and I'll do my best. So the 2022 report for the Huron Humane Society, our intake and adoption numbers for 2022 for the city of Alpena was 333 felines and 43 canines, which is a total of 376 animals. Animals from the city of Alpena are given priority admission into HHS because of the service contract HHS has with the city. This is especially pronounced during kitten season. When the city of Alpena kittens and cats jump felines from other geographic areas on the HHS cat waiting list, 243 kittens from the city were taken in by HHS in this last year. A total of 91 animals came to HHS from other jurisdictions besides the city of Alpena. Total dog and cat intake of 2022 was 414 cats and kittens and 53 dogs and puppies for a total of 467 animals from all jurisdictions. The animal outcome adoption was 41 dogs and 362 cats that were adopted in 2022 for a total of 403 animals adopted last year. Returned to owner were 7 dogs and 10 cats that were returned to their owners in 2022, which is a total of 17 animals. The average length of stay for dogs at HHS is 17.5 days, and the average length of stay for a cat at HHS is 33.3 days before being adopted. Fiscal responsibility in 2022, HHS took in $303,214.21 and has expenses of $289,120.50. The price of almost everything has gone up, so the cost of taking care of the animals that came through HHS shelter this past year was approximately $649.28 per animal. That is a $200 increase per animal over the cost of per animal in 2021, which was $449. The amount invested in veterinary and structural health of Huron Humane Society, we have Alpena Community College Manufacturing Technology Club finished their project to improve the doors on HHS's dog kennels and remodeled the canine storeroom. We installed new glass front doors in the cat playrooms that allow natural light to come into the rooms and help stimulate cats in the winter when they can't access our catio spaces. We installed a new light in the dog exercise yard that allows dogs and people alike to see better after dark. Lowered the catwalks in the kitten room to make learning to climb easier and less scary for the little kittens. And we added a donated television to the wall of the kitten playroom so that the babies can watch fish and birds and bouncing balls on the television. It's pretty cute, I gotta say. And constantly upgrading things that break and or wear out because of animal usage. They definitely can take a toll. So having demonstrated its continued commitment to fiscal, ethical, and humane responsibility in action over the past year, the Huron Humane Society respectfully asks for a small increase in funding and the renewal of its contract with the city of Alpena. If HHS were to bill the city $649 that it cost HHS to care for the 376 animals HHS took in from the city in 2022, that bill would be more than $244,000. It's important to note that $649 per animal includes testing for common infectious diseases, flea and tick treatments and preventatives, heartworm preventatives, all standard age appropriate vaccinations, socialization, care and feeding for sometimes months at a time, as in the case with newborn kittens and puppies, any needed veterinary care while the animal is in the shelter, and spay-neuter surgery performed by Alpena County's veterinary clinics. The services HHS is able to provide is because of generous donations and funding from our service contract with the city that benefit public health for animals and humans alike. We are honored to contribute to the health and happiness of so many Alpena pets and the families that eventually join and wish that it wasn't so expensive. We are not immune to the effects of inflation, but homeless kittens abandoned outside don't understand why the cost of food and medicine could deter us from being able to rescue them. The Huron Humane Society requests $22,500 from the city of Alpena, a small increase in the amount of funding by the city over the last year. For this price, the city is covering $59.84 of the $649 it cost to care for the 476 animals the society took in from city residents in 2022. The $59.84 pays for the first round of testing and preventive treatment each animal receives. Does not cover the spay, neuter services, veterinary care, vaccinations, and the cost to employ professional animal care technicians to humanely care for the homeless companion animal residents of Alpena, the society's insurance, maintenance, or our utility costs. To put it into further perspective, the average cat spends 33.3 days at HHS before being adopted, which works out to about $19.50 a day. Funding from the city covers about 3 days of care per pet. The average length of stay for a dog at HHS is about 17.5 days, which means it costs about $37.08 per day to take care of a dog. Funding from the city covers about 1.5 days for the care of a dog at Huron Humane Society. Funding for $22,500 is a good bargain for the city and will be put to responsible use by Huron Humane Society. Thank you for valuing humane best practices and managing the homeless, unwanted, neglected, and abused animal problem in the city of Alpena. We at HHS are grateful for our strong relationship with the city of Alpena, the police department, which periodically brings us animals needing our services. We are truly appreciative of our relationship with the city, and thank you for your commitment to the health and well-being of the domestic animal population of the city. Thank you.
Questions here?
I had one, just one. How are we comparing to last year on this? I know we're doing a lot more social media in terms of getting pictures of cats and kittens, and myself got a kitten because of Cindy. I think it's such a great idea. Are we doing better in terms of fewer cats, fewer dogs, or about the same? Oh, you can.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yes, yes, we actually have different procedures that we put into place internally. So we have a manager. We actually have 2 managers now, and they take turns doing that. So we do our best to have a quick turnaround, because we know the quicker that the animals get exposure, the quicker they're going to get adopted. So that's imperative that we do that. So we definitely do our best in that.
How's the city of Alpena doing in terms of the kittens and dog population? Are their numbers decreasing, or are we seeing those rise as well?
I'm sorry, what?
They never stop.
Yeah, I mean,
No, it doesn't stop, but is it a stagnant number in terms of every year?
absolutely not. No. I mean, we see it's really unpredictable, but we can always count on it to go up, because I mean, that is one guarantee. Because just when we think, wow, look at us, we've got it just, those emails that come at 11 o'clock at night, usually unexpectedly, and then we have to, of course, have increased staff hours. So it's a little difficult to give you, exact numbers if that's what you want right now as far as that. But yeah, it's unpredictable. It always goes up. It really does. There's such a need in the county, in the city. So. Oh yeah.
Thanks, April.
And see, oh my gosh. Oh, we
You could certainly refer to the past, to their past reports.
I can look up your past reports.
Absolutely.
I think it would be so nice to be able to even, I try to share Cindy's pictures, and if we all just share.
If you follow us, they're posted on our website.
Yeah.
And we have Facebook, so you can always reach out to us. Absolutely. We're more than happy, because the more exposure they get, the questions you ask, we're able to give you the information, and then in turn, these animals get adopted, and that's really our priority. We are there for them. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, April.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Receipt and file on that, please.
I move we receive and file. Second.
Mayor Walagora?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilmember Nowak?
Yes.
And Councilmember Walczak?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next up, I have a proclamation. This is Thunder Bay International Film Festival Week, January 23rd, 2023. Whereas the Friends of the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary was established in October 2010 to support the mission of the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary to identify, protect, conserve, and enhance the natural and maritime heritage resources, values, and qualities of the National Marine Sanctuary System for this and future generations throughout the nation. And whereas the Thunder Bay International Film Festival, brought to the residents of Alpena through a joint effort of the International Ocean Film Festival and the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, hopes to bring larger ocean awareness and environment for interactive learning and inspiration for local filmmakers. And whereas the Thunder Bay International Film Festival will utilize the powerful form of film to communicate ocean and Great Lakes issues and bring cultural events to Alpena and surrounding communities to inspire a shared vision of conservation of ocean and Great Lakes environments through stunning, sometimes controversial, and always conversation-starting films. And whereas the Great Lakes region, often considered the third coast, is a vital part of the global waterways, thus making global issues our issues too. And whereas the Thunder Bay International Film Festival explores water issues through some of the most impressive ocean and Great Lakes films from around the world, complemented by social events, educational opportunities, and discussions with award-winning, nationally recognized filmmakers. Now therefore, I, Matthew J. Walagora, by the virtue of authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Alpena, do hereby proclaim the week of January 23rd, 2023 as Thunder Bay International Film Festival Week in the city of Alpena. And Kim Schultz from the is here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for sticking around with us.
Thank you.
And where do people find the information on when and where to be?
Mostly on the website, thunderbayfriends.org is everything, all information there. So,
okay.
Or you can call the sanctuary store if you need to. That's 884-6200. But mostly out on the website.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly appreciate the support of the city council and the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next for report of officers, we have the second quarter of fiscal year 2020 financial report from Anna Soik, Director.
Thank you, Mayor. This report it's hard to believe it's already 6 months through the current fiscal year, so we should be at 50% of the budget. Before we know it, we'll be working on another budget. So overall for revenue, we are at 60.55%. So that is doing really well. Some of the variances that I have off to the side are for public safety is low at 33.16%. And that is, as always, ambulance transport fees because of the annual reversing entry. We do that in July, so that's why it's off the entire year. Also, we did not get a FEMA grant for turnout gear that we were expecting, so we are going to need to adjust the budget for that. Community and economic development is at 39%. That's low due to the lack of planning licenses and permit revenue. Recreation and culture is at 1.18% of budget, and the majority of that revenue, $419,600, was anticipated for grants, none of which has been received yet. Transfers in are at 1.92%, and the majority of that anticipated revenue is for ARPA fund projects that the money gets transferred in from that fund as they're completed. On the expenditure side, we are under budget, so that's great at 48%. General government is high, and that's due to the annual payment to the pension fund, which was just made in December, which was over $1 million. Public works is at 43.88%. That's low due to capital projects that haven't been expensed. I did create, per our auditor, we had to move our contribution to the Humane Society. We kind of had it in a weird spot. It didn't really make sense, and I wasn't quite sure where to put it. But we finally figured that it should go in the health and welfare function. So I just have to move budget. But right now it looks kind of wonky. We've got expense there, but no budget. So that's why it's at 100%. Community, no, that one's fine. Recreation and culture is at 21%. Of the $916,000 budgeted for capital and parks, only $18,450 has been expensed. Transfers out are a little bit low, but that's okay. So from the original, we had we were going to reduce fund balance by $608,362, and we increased that a little bit to $610,383. Any questions on anything there?
That I made Ann, and I wanted to go to the rest of. I used to ask a lot of questions on this, and I don't know if it's just through her expertise in this. I have no questions. I mean, every time that I go looking for something, it's really easy to find. It's easy to follow. I just wanted you to know that I really appreciate the reporting format that you came up with.
Thank you. Appreciate that. On the next page on the cash balances. Oh, this is the wrong one. This is a kind of an abbreviated version. I did at the beginning of the meeting hand out the updated one. Okay. So some of the variances that I see are in major streets. We have only spent 23.5% on expenses, and the fund is built up for spring and summer projects. In the marina fund, we have less cash that was transferred from the general fund as compared to last year. So they haven't received as much yet because they don't need it yet. The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority is down 10,000. That was because we transferred that for admin expenses. The DDA decreased because the two funds were combined. Building Inspection Fund only has $1,337. It's kind of like the marina. There's no transfer from the general fund yet, and we're waiting to see if it's needed. The Building Inspection Fund should be able to function on its own, so we're just kind of not making like a scheduled transfer, just doing it as needed. Building authority debt is down about $9,000, and we're trying to use that fund up. That amount is sitting in the bank account, and we're like, why are we transferring so much from general fund when we can just use up this cash that we have? So that is our goal there. Let's see, sewer and water are kind of high, and those again are built up for spring and summer projects. The stores fund is negative, but you can see that that's consistent with previous years. We will transfer that from the general fund to make it positive, because when we get audited, we cannot have a negative cash in any funds. In the general fund, we have, looks like about $800,000 more than the previous year. We collected more in taxes as compared to last year, and if you remember, the taxable values went up, so we are seeing that. Also, the fund balance has increased. In the American Rescue Plan Act fund, we did receive our second tranche, so that's why it's almost double, and we are investing that money because we're not using it right now. We do have until the end of calendar year 24 to use it all. So we are investing it short term, and we're seeing some nice returns on that. Going down to the retirement fund, it went down $1 million as compared to 12/31/21. These are book values. For comparison, the book value at 9/30/22 was $24.24 million, while the market value increased from $24.7 million on 9/30 to $27 million on 12/31. Going down to retiree health care, that one went up. That's probably because we made a contribution to it. But again, these amounts are book values. The book value at 9/30 was $2.16 million. The market value increased from $2 million on 9/30 to $2.12 million on 12/31. Any questions on the cash balances and investments? And then just on the last page, this is a list of all of our investments. They're pretty much the same as the report from 9/30. We did invest more in the general fund. We had a book value of we have a book value now of 3.4, and we were at 2.7 on 9/30. So overall, at 9/30, we were at 3.8 million in book value and 3.6 in market value, and now we're at 4.6 million in book and 4.4 in market value. We are moving some more cash, like from the equipment fund. We decided to invest some more because of the rates being really good. Just something in the short term until we have more of an immediate need for it. And as the auditor said, we did add to fund balance again, and we are working through something that we are going to bring to council in hopefully the near future. So a way to reduce the fund balance is well, you can spend it, but it's also, you can commit it. So our plan is to possibly move it into the equipment fund and then commit it for something that we want to purchase. So that will reduce the general fund balance, because that 41% is unassigned general fund balance, and this will be moved out and committed.
Can those commitments change?
I think so, with a motion and approval.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Not being preemptive, I just.
Have to approve it.
But the 600,000, hopefully take that down a little bit too. Even though for fiscal year 22, I believe we budgeted like 233,000 to come from fund balance, and then we end up adding over 500,000. I don't know.
You are doing way too good.
It's just our
I tried.
ability to get projects done too, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did in the current budget for fiscal year 23, I think we had every single capital improvement project in there except one.
the city hall parking lot.
Wow.
Oh, that one too. Okay, there's two.
Yeah.
There was a Marina one.
Oh, yes, because I remember, and that was a smaller one too.
That's fantastic. I mean, I remember one of the things when Matt and I first got on council, I remember there was at times, I think less than 30% of the projects that were listed that we were able to even fund and get done just for, we didn't have the funding. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And nice to hear.
Yeah.
Nice place to be.
Certainly.
Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
And we'll receive.
I move we receive and file the second quarter fiscal report.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Councilmember Nowak?
Yes.
Councilmember Walczak?
Yes.
And Mayor Walagora? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next up, we have communications and petitions. This is the Hope Network pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes request. And is Anthony Baker is
Barker online.
Barker, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I did present a letter requesting that we extend our date for us to go start construction on the Bingham Senior Housing Project. When we applied for this a year and a half ago or so, we were hoping to get under construction in December of last year. And with the escalations in prices and supply chain and just a whole variety of things, we weren't able to close it. We had to get additional gap funding. We still haven't closed the gap totally, but we're close enough now that we're ready to, we think we can get it out of the ground fairly shortly. And so we're starting our closing process, but we can't get it closed by the end of the month, which is the current date. So we're asking for 6 more months.
Correct. And in my opinion, I don't have any issues or really any questions other than one to Bill as to if no one else has any issues, what's the process of simply changing a date on an ordinance? We're not changing any other specifics in the ordinance from what I understand?
Correct.
That's correct.
We'll just bring it to you at the next meeting for first reading and then approve it after that. So it'd be approved by, what's the second meeting in February, the 20th?
February 7th. I don't know. I'd have to look.
First and 28th. And the second meeting in February.
Yes.
Okay. So it does take a first and second reading.
Yes, we still got to change the ordinance. Yep.
Okay. That's the 6th and the 20th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody in council have any questions or issues with that before we bring it and start the process?
No issues, sir.
All right. Looks like there aren't any issues or questions, Mr. Barker. So I hate to assume what might happen at the next 2 meetings, but it sounds as though it's just a process that we'll get through without any issues.
Okay, and I'd be happy to join the other meetings as well when you're doing your first, second reading if you like.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, and we look forward to becoming a part of the Alpena community. We heard all your growth and plans for all those things that are happening around that area, and we're excited to be a part of it as well.
Excellent. And we are as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. And I don't see a need for any action, Bill.
No.
Okay.
Prepare it for the next meeting and first reading and then approve it on the 20th.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Next up, we have some new business. A is the city concrete program renewal recommendations, and Charles Konjorski is here to present that for us.
I'm going to play the part of Charlie.
Charlie's wearing a tie.
Good evening, council. This will require two motions, I believe. So I can either read them one at a time, or I can just read through both of them and then whatever you guys prefer, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and take them as a whole, and then we'll split it up.
Sounds good. Okay, on April 26, 2022, the city received and opened bids for the 2022 City Concrete Program. The bid was awarded to Bedrock Contracting for 2022. This contract allowed for 1-year contract renewal, and both parties can agree on the pricing. The city has received renewal pricing from Bedrock Contracting for the 2023 City Contract Program. They have proposed an 8.71 price increase on all work activities for the 2023 season. Based on the national cost of living percentage increase requested, it is my recommendation on behalf of the city engineer to renew the city concrete contract with Bedrock Contracting for 2023 at the attached prices. In no case shall the contract be extended beyond December 31st. Further, the resident cost for sidewalk replacement under this program is established at 60% of the cost for installation of 4-inch replacement sidewalk. This cost would include both the contractor cost of $6.38 and engineering cost of 35 cents per square foot, totaling $6.73. 60% of this cost would be $4.04. It is my recommendation It is my recommendation on behalf of the city engineer that the property owner sidewalk rate be established at $4.04. This represents a 31-cent increase over the 2022 rate of $3.73 per square foot.
Charlie, does anybody have any questions?
Sir? Nope. Two motions on that.
Yeah, let's take care of the first one first, which is the contract, please.
Okay. I move we approve the contract with Bedrock for prices presented for the contract for the sidewalk program. Or I could tell I was ready for that. Huh?
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Nowak,
Yes.
Councilmember Walchuk,
Yes.
Mayor Walagora,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And I move we establish the property owner's sidewalk rate at $4.04 for fiscal year 20, or not fiscal year, calendar year 2023.
Second.
Councilmember Nowak,
Yes.
Councilmember Walchuk,
Yes.
Mayor Walagora,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And next up is the hot mixed asphalt patching program contract renewal recommendation.
In December of 2022, the city received the attached request from Everett Goodrich Trucking to renew the hot mixed asphalt patching program contract for the 2023 construction season. This contract provides as needed bituminous asphalt services to the city with costs billed to the appropriate line item where the work is performed. The contract for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2023 contains language which allows for the renewal of the contract for up to one additional one-year period, providing both parties can agree on any pricing adjustments. In no case shall the contract be extended beyond December 31st, 2023. Bruce Goodrich of Everett Goodrich Trucking has requested a 16.4 increase overall to offset an increase in material costs. The proposed changes would show a net increase of $16,460 to the contract. 2022 unit prices as well as 2023 requested unit prices are outlined on the attached bid comparison spreadsheet for review. It is my recommendation on behalf of the city engineer that the city council approve the renewal of the HMA patching program contract for 2023 with Everett Goodrich Trucking for the unit prices proposed.
Any questions on that one either?
No, I have no questions.
No, you're off the hook today.
I'm off the hook.
You have something, Danny, or you good? Okay, you're off the hook.
Well, thank you guys. That was easy.
Not after.
I'll tell Steve that his job is super easy.
There you go.
All right, I move we approve the renewal of the HMA patching program contract for 2023 with Everett Goodrich Trucking Incorporated for the unit prices proposed.
Second.
Councilmember Walchuk,
Yes.
Mayor Walagora,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
and Councilmember Noah.
Yes,
Motion carries.
I move we adjourn to closed session to discuss an update on the water and sewer litigation.
Support.
Thank you, Danny.
Mayor Walagora,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Noah,
Yes.
and Councilmember Walchuk.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yeah, can you take us off though?
I know, yeah, it was cut off. Here you go.